Moonbeams and Happy New Year! What a year I've had. A lot has gone on both on and off the camera throughout this year, and I thought it would be nice to tie up the year with a neat little bow. However, before I start wrapping up 2025, I'd quite like to touch on a few highlights from both 2023 and 2024, as I didn't really upload much throughout the past few years, partially because I moved out and my flat didn't really look neat enough and I didn't have a desk at the time, so recording was a bit difficult. But yeah, I just felt like I would try to mention at least one thing from each month that was positive that occurred. So here we go. January, I kicked off the year with figuring out another of my identities. I am pan-romantic and proud. That means that I tend to have a romantic attraction with like anyone regardless of gender orientation. It's just what feels comfortable for me, and I don't feel ashamed to admit that's how I feel. I just think getting that out in the open feels right for me. February, I spent time working on a digital fan artwork. I believe it was this one. Yes, I did one, this same one both with and without a background. But I think part of the reason I'm so fond of drawing Janice Sanders as a snake, something Kate related as well, is because it's just naturally good practice for going, okay, here are where my skills are at now, let's create something from this. That felt good to do because I think I wasn't doing very good mentally at the time. March was a fairly quiet month, but I finally began to take ADHD medication after about a year or since having been diagnosed the previous year. It took quite a while for me to get through the waiting list and then to get titrated for ADHD medication. Yeah, I finally began to take it, and as you would all know, I did a short vlog type thing where I talked about the changes I had gone through mentally since having started it. I do want to touch on that again sometime, maybe next year. What it's been 5 years onwards, I think, and like how it's helping me now compared to how it was helping me right when I first started taking the medication. I just felt that was worth a mention because that was a pretty big change for me at the time, and because of that, it helped me with a number of things, all the way from sleep to having a more balanced emotional state, which was really, really positive. On to April. I joined in with the founders' April Fool's Day prank, which is something that has happened annually since I think 2020, over on Twitter, aka X. The fans of Thomas Sanders, all take part in a online prank, and it's honestly just for fun. Each year it's had a different theme. People have created artworks. I think some people created videos. All sorts goes on, and it gives Thomas something nice to look at. I also joined a few art-based social clubs at the time, and I attempted to get back on top of creating content on multiple platforms while somehow balancing cooking, seeing friends occasionally, couple of screen problems, overdue digital artworks, yep, seems to happen every year, chores, searching for a flat, and many other things as well. April was a quietly busy month, shall we say? May was a fairly quiet month, aside from a few things such as walking into town to spend time working on artwork and catching up with friends. Not much else really seemed to happen that month. I think I wasn't too well during that month, which might have been a big part of the reason why not a lot happened. June 2023, I took part in helping out with a Pride display that I created tons of informative posters for, and that just felt like a brilliant way for me to combine something I'm really passionate about with my identities and my enjoyment of sharing facts due to being autistic. I just seem to be able to really hold on to facts. July, of course, I celebrated my birthday with my family. I don't really want to go into that with too much detail, as it was more private that year, I think, compared to more recent years. But yeah, it was nice, and this was a cake I made with, I think, my mum's help. I might have had help from my support worker, but I might be wrong. And the main reason I made my cake like that is I share my birthday with Non-Binary Visibility Day, which is really cool. What are the chances of that? Moving on to August 2023. That was when I moved into my flat and I started to live more independently as a result, as well as I attended a local Pride festival. I think it was also that month that I paused uploading to YouTube for a while, and I paused doing my Twitch live streams, which I want to try and get back to doing Twitch live streams next year, but I don't know if that's going to work out very well. That was when I moved into my flat, and the first few weeks or so my bed was literally just a mattress on the floor. I didn't have a desk. All I had really was bags and bags and bags of stuff I brought from home, mattress on the floor, boxes of books everywhere, a table that was was like a hand-me-down from, I think, my parents. I still have that table. I really need to get a better one because it's not the best. I just remember being incredibly anxious because that's literally the only time I've ever moved house, and it was a huge change, probably one of the biggest changes I've ever had, really. Swiftly moving on to September. I visited a zoo during September. I think I went to that with my support worker and a couple of friends, and that was my first time going to a zoo/animal park since sometime in, I think, the early 2020s. But no, yeah, that felt good. It was nice to see all the animals and to pose like this on the massive chair they have there. And yeah, I also created my first couple of artworks since having moved into my flat. They're not the greatest artworks, to be honest. and I think it's partially because I moved into my flat at the time. I was really creatively burned out, and these were mainly just exercises in hopes that I could re-spark or reignite my creativity, because that's really all I could do to keep myself occupied at the time anyway. I didn't have a TV, my laptop was incredibly slow. It was about 5 years old at that time, I think. Maybe not quite 5 years, but hey ho. So it meant that there wasn't really a lot I could do to keep me occupied. October that year, I worked my butt off and I challenged myself to create 31 artworks for a Inktober alternative, even though I practically destroyed my sleep routine in the process. Whoops. Seems to be a yearly occurrence for me with that challenge, and maybe I need to find one that's gonna mean I create simpler artworks that take less time. We'll see how that goes next year. Unless I'm mistaken, that was the year that I dressed up in a bat onesie and went to a Halloween disco. Yep. Swiftly moving on to November 2023, I saw Gareth Malone's Sing Along a Gareth 2 with my mum, and just a few weeks after that I joined a local choir with my support worker, which I am still a part of. I'm actually quite glad I joined that because I needed a huge confidence boost at the time. I didn't have a lot to look forward to either, really, due to all the huge changes that year. But yeah, I'm really glad I took that opportunity, and I'm still going to that choir actually. December, my first Christmas since I moved out. I baked mince pies for the first time. I think I did that on my own, although I might be wrong. I spent plenty of time catching up with friends. I saw the Lee's Castle Christmas lights for the first year, and I enjoy celebrating the festive season. Even though unfortunately I spent most of Christmas alone because my parents weren't too well, I still managed to make the most of it regardless. 2024, I successfully made my first lemon cheesecake that I didn't drop that time. The first time I managed to make a lemon cheesecake mostly on my own, when I went to, I think, check on it during the night. I didn't put the bottom of the cheesecake thing back in correctly. Like, I went to move it to take it back to put in the fridge, and the bottom just dropped out. Cheesecake everywhere, utter disaster. And yes, I will admit, I did cry, but yeah, that was not a great experience. But 2024, I managed to make a cheesecake that I successfully didn't drop. And I cooked beef in my oven for the first time since moving out. Nothing major. I mean, I was still getting fairly used to using my oven because it was different to the oven my parents have. February, I completed a pencil drawing of a friend's dog, which took me several months of work. This was the first and only time that I managed to do a hyper-realistic pencil drawing of a dog. I since haven't managed that, partially because I either haven't had the time, the motivation, or the energy for it. But maybe I'll try again sometime, who knows. But yeah, that was something I was extremely proud of that year, and I hope my friend loved it just as much as I loved working on it. March 2024, My flat finally started to take some shape. My dad and I worked as a team to put together my desk, and I baked muffins for the first time since moving out. Not much, but it was something, and it was positive. April, once again, I joined in with the founders' April Fool's Day prank, and I started challenging myself with creating artwork. This time I pushed myself to create something that was, I think, closer to my heart more than something that didn't really have much feeling behind it, you know. May, after several months of hard work, I finally finished working on a pride collage, which I was really proud of, and I finally returned to creating YouTube videos. At that time I had already returned to doing reaction videos, but I think I only put one up because it was something I had pre-recorded before I moved out, and I just never got around to uploading it at the time. We turned to doing YouTube videos, and it just felt nice because it gave me a thing to focus on. June 2024, I saw a local production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which was amazing, and I celebrated Pride Month. If I recall correctly, that year I didn't really go out much to celebrate Pride Month, but I did attend a Pride disco, which was very fun. July, I sang with the choir at a county show. I cosplayed as character Thomas from the Sanitize series at a friend's celebrity themed disco, birthday party, and I celebrated my birthday with a best friend and my family. So again, a somewhat more private birthday. Rolling on into August, I started working a voluntary role as a part-time co-editor for a local newsletter, which essentially meant like I would create an article for it, and I would also create some form of graphic or artwork or design or something to go along with the artwork or on front of the newsletter. It's just a lovely thing to be able to do, and it makes me feel like my creativity is gaining some usage beyond just a hobby. But yeah, that was and still is something I absolutely adore doing. September 2024, I started the treatment for my hypothyroidism, which I haven't really spoken about very much, and I don't think I've ever mentioned it on YouTube, but yeah, I basically had radio iodine treatment, which also meant going up to, I believe, the Royal Marsden for a bunch of scans on my thyroid, which would take up most of a week, if not two. And yes, well, it was a brilliant thing to do. It was really exhausting, mainly because it takes about an hour to get them back, and it was just day in, day out sometimes, but yeah, that's essentially what happened in September that year, and because I didn't have a lot of energy for other things, not much else took place. October 2024, I went on my first ever residential trip outside of Comic Cons and other events to London with a best friend, which was really fun. I've never really done anything like that. It was more sort of like a last minute let's go on holiday that got pushed forwards and forwards and forwards and forwards. And yeah, that went really well. That was followed a couple of weeks after by a short holiday down in Eastbourne with my support worker. And Eastbourne, especially over the past couple of years, has become a place that I just really adore going to. There's just something relaxing about it. And honestly, if I was given the option of somewhere to move to, it would probably either be London or Eastbourne, or both places if I could afford it. Never know what the future holds. Following on from that, after several months of planning, booking, preparation, I took a solo residential trip down to Crawley during the first leg of the John Barrowman Laid Bare tour. That was my first solo residential trip in almost 5 years at the time. I was very anxious because that's literally the only time I've ever been to Crawley, ever. So it was an area I had to familiarise myself with, which is part of the reason why I went down there for several days. And rolling quickly into November kicked off with me seeing John Barrowman Laid Bare and attending the meet and greet afterwards. The performance was absolutely phenomenal. I laughed, I cried, I just loved it. And I even managed to make some friends both before going and during the evening itself, which is just so cool. Like, it's so rare that I manage to make friends anywhere, and yet it happened that this like amazing tour. I'm not gonna ramble, otherwise I might start bawling my eyes out, but that was just phenomenal to go to, and heartwarming, and just really enjoyable, and everything I needed at that time after having dealt with years of grief and loss and anxiety and doubting myself loads. But yeah, it was lovely to meet John for the first time since 2018 afterwards, and to give him a painting I had done. I still remember his face upon seeing it, and that just meant that I gained motivation for creating there and then. Like, the motivation that had been not really staying in my heart as much as I wanted it to. It just made me feel loved, you know. And that was the first painting I had actually done since 2019. Later on in the month, my mum and I saw Gareth Malone's Sing Along at Gareth 3. This time we met him afterwards. Once again, that show was lovely to attend, and I just had a lovely time singing with loads of other people, just a whole crowd of us singing. Something so magical about that. Right at the end of November last year, me and my support worker went on a local The Polar Express train ride and had a lovely time. It's essentially a short train ride where they tell the story of the Polar Express. We get hot chocolates, we get cookies, there's dancing, there's singing. It was just lovely. December last year, I finally saw part 1 of Wicked, and it just full circle brought me back to the time that I saw Wicked in London when I think I was something like 11, 12 or 13 years old. That was the show that made me fall in love with musical theatre. And it just like, seeing Wicked Part 1 last year, it was an amazing film. It brought all those feelings back in. I was just in complete awe watching it. I also caught up with friends, I saw a local pantomime, I sang carols with my choir at a local Christmas market, and I celebrated Christmas with my family and Boxing Day with my friends and support worker. That was initially supposed to be the highlights, but I kind of forgot how much went on throughout 2023 and 2024 that was positive. Well, mostly positive. Especially since I wasn't uploading many regular YouTube videos throughout both years. Now, on to the crazily hectic and busy year that was 2025. 2025 started off fairly quiet. Not an awful lot went on, to be honest, which was actually rather nice after a rather busy December. It snowed and it was lovely to see everything just blanketed in a layer of white, even if it didn't last all that long. I went through the treatment for my hypothyroidism a second time, mainly because the first time didn't entirely work, and we wanted to attempt to see if we could get me back to closer to normal thyroid levels. I went through that again on top of working my arse off on a second artwork to gift to John Barrowman, which I was surprisingly proud of because that was, I think, the second time I had done a hyper-realistic drawing of someone, unless I'm wrong. Might be a third time. Yeah, I was honestly really proud of how the artwork ended up turning out in the end. Sliding into February, I saw John Barrowman laid bare a second time with my support worker, and again a third time with a friend who I had actually met and become friends with because of John Barrowman. How cool is that? Before me and my friend met him the third time, I worked on creating a third artwork with a different and new to me technique, soft pastels. Both times when I met him, he seemed equally thrilled and touched. That wasn't all that happened in February though. One of my artworks was in a local art exhibition. How cool is that? I mean, it's not every day that you get an artwork in a local exhibition for months on end. Just so cool, you know. Well, that was a extremely positive month. March didn't start off very well for me. Unfortunately, the charity shop that I had been volunteering in for about 6 years by that time closed down. However, while looting the shop did hurt, I found things to do to occupy my time. Such as, for the first time since I finished secondary school back in 2016, I joined a local drama group and caught the acting bug. I loved trying this out and pushing through several anxieties, and yeah, it wasn't a great month for me mentally. I slipped down quite a bit and I just was not happy. I wasn't coping with the sudden changes, again because I am autistic and I struggle with change, especially big change. But yeah, I did eventually manage to push through that pain and move past it. I took part in the Founder April Fool's Day prank, celebrated Easter, watched the streamed version of John Barrowman laid bare, which was really cool to watch. I worked my arse off to create a watercolour painting of one of John Barrowman's dogs, Tito, I believe it's pronounced. I started working around locally, exploring the local woodland, and I started to really get anxieties. But another really cool thing that happened was, while I was dealing with all that anxiety following the loss of the voluntary job, I took it upon myself to request a cameo from John Barrowman. That's the first and only time I've ever done anything like that. John's response was just so sweet, and it really did motivate me to push through the anxieties I was dealing with at the time. This is John's response to the cameo.
I know you are having a bit of an emotional issue at the moment, which is all good. That's fine. And it's because of the shop where you've had the last 6 years volunteering. It's closing down. Don't look at that as being, I know you said it's giving you some anxiety about that, but also you have anxiety in general. Here's my thing, Lyndon. We can let ourselves be smothered by all of that. And trust me, I've been through some things myself where I've allowed things, and I say this, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I'm just giving you some advice from my heart. If something's smothering you like that, you got to challenge it. You have to stand up and challenge it. And I know you might feel like, oh, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You just have to do it one small step at a time. Don't let the anxiety and the loneliness control you. That's the most important thing.
So that was a really sweet thing of John to do, and it really did help me. Like, I was just doing better mentally after that. I was feeling more confident, and in the end, yeah, I did take on the goal/task John gave me, and I think I kind of proved that I can push through anxiety no matter how bad I'm feeling at the time. I think any time that I begin to start going through the anxiety loops, I am gonna do that task again, because it's a massive help to kind of realign myself with who I am and what my abilities are and what I can do to make myself feel better. Rolling into May, I saw a few shows with my support worker, and I got really into scrapbooking, like fully eagerly. Vintage scrapbooking was the only thing I watched for like weeks. I was in 3 successful performances, and I did a speech relating to the exhibition that one of my artworks was in, which felt really cool because I've never done any sort of in-person speech ever, and it was just like the coolest thing to do. I really hope I get another opportunity to put a artwork of mine into a exhibition, because I needed that, to be honest, like that oomph. I don't know what word to use, but it was just new and scary and exciting, and all these massive, phenomenal words. To be able to do something like that, and it was a massive step for me as well. On top of the fact that was only, I think, a few days, if not a day after the final show. Overall, that month was amazing. Moving into June, I went to Hastings Comic Con with a friend, and we met a handful of Doctor Who actors there, as well as I tried a version of Dungeons and Dragons. for the first time, which I really enjoyed. I didn't do much to celebrate Pride Month during June beyond putting together a colourful Pride display in my bedroom and creating a collage that focused on diversity for the newsletter that I co-edit. This is a collage I did, and this is the Pride display I put together. Yes, I did a video of it because why not? It felt really cool to do, even though it was a quieter Pride month for me. And believe me, oh my gosh, June, it was insanely warm. Like, I kept having to dismantle the Pride displays so I could have my fan blowing at me, just so I could get stuff done on the laptop and artwork and all that. Moving into July, after half a year of planning, I attended London Film and Comic Con in my first ever purchase cosplay, Captain Jack Harkness, childhood hero of mine and a huge reason I am the person I am today. I had a lovely time meeting a variety of celebrities, gifting 2 artworks to John Barrowman, spending time with friends, taking part in the cosplay contest. Wow, since when did I plan on doing that? And having various photo ops taken with a few of the celebrities. A lot of that you guys would have seen in the London Film Comic Con vlogs I did, part 1 and part 2 back in July. If you haven't watched those, I will try to link them down in the descriptions if you're interested in watching. It was just really cool to go to that because that was the first proper Comic Con I had been to, aside from Hastings Comic Con, since 2018. It was just cool to go and cosplay and spend time with friends and catch up with my editor, who I hadn't seen since 2020, which was really nice because while it's not always easy having a long distance friendship, it was just not nice to catch up and goof about and eat McDonald's together and just joke about and talk with someone who's been editing my videos for 7 years now, maybe 8. And it was cool to see John Barrowman again. That was the 3rd time this year that I have met him, and no, he's just brilliant, you know. Well, one of those few celebrities who you want to meet. He's down to earth, he's funny, he's kind, he's generous, and he's hilarious. After London Film Comic Con had concluded and I had settled back into a somewhat normal routine, it was my birthday. Yay! My birthday celebrations were slightly bigger this year. I was surprised by my support workers' family showing up to my birthday meal unexpectedly, and I kid you not, I wanted to cry because that was just one of those really good surprises. If I'm not careful, I'm going to cry during filming this video. But nah, it was just so, I don't know, I felt seen, you know? But yeah, before I started crying, I created probably one of my proudest birthday cakes on my own with very little help. And I had a lovely meal with my family, followed by visiting some of the local lavender fields, which was really cool because lavender is a comfort scent for me. Yeah, it was just lovely. August. I spent a few days in London with one of my best friends, exploring various areas of the city, and I attended 2 Pride festivals. One of them I was helping out with a stall at, as well as selling some Pride stickers that I had designed. I'm hoping to do more, and I shall try and get more designs released sometime next year, because I am in the process of setting up a micro business of my own. Woo! That's gonna be cool. But yeah, that was a really cool experience, and but both that and attending LFCC gave me the idea that if I manage to create enough products and I'm able to earn enough from selling those, I would really like to sell merch and artwork at Comic Cons, because it blends several of my favourite things: Comic Cons, fandoms and artwork. While September was a fairly quiet month, I still managed to have a handful of positive moments, such as celebrating a friend's birthday, spending time drawing just for fun, and hyperfixating on scrapbooking again, among various other joyful moments. And I tell you, I needed September to be quiet after half a year of busy. October didn't start out in the greatest way, as I unfortunately had COVID, which left me feeling rather creatively burned out. However, I managed to avoid feeling negative thanks to spending those days watching one of my favourite Twitch streamers' week-long birthday-thon stream. I think it was originally supposed to only be like 24 hours, but it literally went on for a week. Last, I think, 4 days of that stream, that was the 24-hour stream that went, just kept rolling. It was just really cool, because instead of sitting in my bedroom feeling alone and sick and bored, I had people to talk to, people to game with, people to make puzzles with, and it was just fun, you know? And that kept me occupied during that time. Once I had recovered from COVID, I spent time catching up with friends. I walked around in the rain. I started working on another artwork to give gift to John Barrowman, despite the foggy brain and creative burnout. And I ended the month with my annual rewatch of The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I do twice a year on Halloween and Christmas Day, because it's a Halloween and it's a Christmas film. I don't want to hear your opinions. To me, it's both. But yeah, that was just a really cozy way to end what wasn't a great month. November, I finally escaped the creative burnout during early November. It helped to take a break from anything creative for a few days, and just to spend time with friends and my support worker. Eventually, and while it did take just over 2 weeks to complete, I did manage to finish working on the artwork, literally minutes before my friend came to collect me, ahead of the John Barrowman campus Christmas. The soundcheck Q&A was rather interesting to attend. I've never been to something like that before, excluding Comic Cons. I was being fairly curious about what goes on behind the scenes and what the final rehearsal tends to look like during and before performances happen. The performance itself was, again, phenomenal. John was phenomenal, Ben was phenomenal, Keith Jack was phenomenal, Scott was hilarious. And phenomenal. I cried multiple times, which, as I mentioned, is a very rare occurrence for me. and I laughed at the funny moments. Meeting John afterwards was wonderful. John seemed to adore the artwork, and that was honestly really touching, despite the creative burnout that I had dealt with. Other positive things happened during the month as well. I saw a local performance with my support worker and another best friend. I spent time with another best friend for a few days when he came to stay locally. We even went down to Hastings for the day, which was lovely. My Tradescantia, which has been struggling for some time, finally began to grow instead of wilting. November is going to be a long one, so prepare yourselves. I cosplayed as Captain Jack Harkness once more while I decorated my flat for Christmas. Travelled on the Polar Express and visited the Leeds Castle Christmas lights with my support worker and friends. What a busy and festive month it was. December, at the time of recording, has been a bit quieter. Not a lot has gone on, but that's mainly because I've been so hectic with sorting presents out, arranging stuff ready to record this video, because I am recording in the, I think, second week of December, and it's just been go. So yeah, it's been a hectic month, but I think Christmas is going to be fairly quiet and busy, depending on what happens. And after that, I'm just going to be tired the rest of the month. I'd like to thank everyone for watching the videos over the past year, especially since I returned to uploading long form. Even when it's not been all that easy or possible for me to get videos out. Maybe I've been dealing with mental health struggles, maybe life has been lifing. But the people who stick around and watch the videos all the way through, every single video, always make my day. And I am ever so grateful for all of you. I wish you all a lovely new year, and let's see what I manage to achieve throughout 2026. Take care. I love you all loads and catch you in the new year. Bye!